Alongside Andrew McGuinness and Tyler Reedy. Happy Groundhog Day, everybody. Punxsutawney Phil did not see a shadow this morning, so.
And spring is near, as the weather outside indicates.
Spring is coming early, and you know what that means for us, guys? We get to talk about playoff hockey, because that's what spring means to us. Weekend series with some big stakes, guys. What does it mean for you, Andrew?
Well, you look at the Big Ten standings right now, and there's two very clear teams at the top. In Michigan State, who's coming into South Bend this weekend, and Wisconsin. Those two teams are almost certainly going to have the top two seeds. We'll see which one gets the first round bye, gets the 1 seed. But 3 through 6, it's really tight right now. Notre Dame was in the 3 spot going into last weekend, their bye week. They dropped to number 4 while they were idle. However, they're going to have an opportunity over these last few months of the season to play their way into home ice. Last year took that crazy run at the end of the season, winning those last 4 games, that wild senior week, and then going to Michigan and winning despite being outshot, cumulatively like 112 to like 35 or something like that. But they had an opportunity to make things maybe a little bit less dramatic this time around and really assert their claim in the Big Ten standings that they're a team that can be a threat come postseason play.
So what does Notre Dame have to do? What's the key to a successful weekend for the Irish?
Well, you look at the special teams battle. Notre Dame's power play for most of the season, as it has been really across like the last decade or so, is not spectacular, only above 19% by a hair, second to right on the bottom in the Big Ten. But they've been better lately. In their last game against Penn State, maybe the best the power plays looked all season. 3 goals, 13 shots on 6 attempts. And what was really encouraging is the first of those 3 goals they scored on the power play was a bit of a greasy goal, a 5-on-3. That's kind of an outlier. However, later on in the game, they were able to execute some more high-danger passing plays, get some really good looks, and obviously having that confidence coming into this series, with that last game a couple weeks ago being one of the best games of the power play this season, I think it'd be really beneficial as you get a look at some of the goals Notre Dame was able to score in that series finale against Penn State. This is the 5-on-3 one here from Moynihan going to his knees to score, but then as you can see there, a bit of a greasy goal. The Irish win the battle behind the net. Moynihan out front with the 2-man advantage, but Notre Dame's work at 5-on-4 later in the game was also stellar as well. Got some really good looks and were able to capitalize on them. They've got Cole Knuble in the bumper spot now, which adds a different element to what we had at the start of the season, and some of the other guys like Danny Nelson, who's been picking it up across the board lately, and guys like him are stepping up on all situations. It makes the power play even better.
Thank you, Jake. Along with Andrew McGuinness, I'm Tyler Reedy. We will be your broadcasters for WVFI Sports Radio, the voice of the Fighting Irish, this Saturday night when Notre Dame hosts Ohio State in a 9 versus 6 matchup here in South Bend. Andrew, should be a great one. A lot of big storylines to discuss with both teams. Starting with Ohio State, you've got head coach Ryan Day, who's won nearly 90% of the games he's coached at OSU, but still feels a little bit like he's on the hot seat, at least in Columbus, but this could be a big one to dispel some of those notions that he can't win the big ones.
Yeah, certainly. Obviously, the 2 losses to Michigan each of the last couple seasons. There are people who think if he loses this game and he loses to Michigan again, his job might be gone. So this is a huge game for Ryan Day. It's very rare that Notre Dame has come into a big game like this where they aren't the ones facing the most pressure to prove themselves. It's also really rare they've come into this type of game with a quarterback advantage, but that's what they think they have. Certainly everyone thinks they have with the way Sam Hartman's played. Kyle McCord's been very solid as well for Ohio State, but Hartman, he elevates the floor of this Notre Dame team. Now it's time to see how high he can elevate the ceiling as he gets ready for his first big game of the year. Yeah, certainly. Obviously, talking about the advantage Notre Dame has at quarterback. Looking at what this game was last year when these 2 teams met in Week 1, Notre Dame was very clearly, punching up. First-year head coach, first-time starting quarterback. The Irish were outmanned at almost every single position except for probably tight end with Michael Mayer. But this year, things feel a little bit more even. Ohio State does have an advantage, I'd say, at most positions of the field, but the gap has been closer. Obviously, the most important position in the field, Notre Dame is the upper team in that department of quarterback play, of course. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this one goes down. I'm expecting a close, very competitive game. Yes, Notre Dame secondary has a lot of depth across the board, but, obviously they have some star power as well in the presence of Benjamin Morrison. We saw what he can do in big games last year, the big pick 6 against Clemson. He was outstanding in that game, really improved dramatically throughout the course of the season. He's one of the best cornerbacks in the country, and he's going to prevent Marvin Harrison Jr. with a really tough task. Obviously, Harrison certainly has been up to the task against almost every secondary that he's faced so far. So Notre Dame team's going to make it challenging on him, but if he can pull through, it's going to be a major boost to his start. Certainly, in talking about the Clemson game last year, obviously Audric Estime, one of the stars of that game, the Notre Dame ground game, of course, leading the way. Estime, running backs are not as highly valued as they once were, but Audric Estime has a chance in this game and throughout this season to prove that he might be an exception to that rule, of course, having a great junior season thus far. And Sam Hartman, he's played outstandingly throughout his college career, but this is definitely going to be the biggest game he's ever played on. Wake Forest has usually been a good team, but definitely not a national championship contender or even a playoff contender in recent years. So for him to have this opportunity to not just lead his team to victory over a top opponent, but to potentially lead them deep into postseason play, it's a really special one, and he's got a great opportunity here, and Irish are hoping he won't waste it.
Yeah, I mean, we're wearing these shirts to honor, of course, I almost forgot. We're wearing these shirts to honor Mike Brey's attire, or lack thereof, from when the Irish won the 2017 Maui Invitational Tournament. But I want to go back to a different tournament that Notre Dame won, and, you know, a lot of great things happened during Mike Brey's time here, but the biggest banner in Purcell Pavilion that's going to honor his legacy is that 2015 ACC Championship banner that's hanging from the rafters at Purcell. That Irish team, so talented. Jaron Grant, Pat Connaughton, Zach August, Demetrius Jackson, Steve Astoria, some good guys coming off the bench as well who played a big role in future seasons as well. Just so much talent, a classic Mike Brey team that shot the ball incredibly well and gave it their all on defense, made up for their lack of size and short rotation with that shooting and all that good stuff. And, you know, to go from one of the worst teams in the ACC in Notre Dame's first year in the conference the season prior to winning the ACC that year and then going to the Elite Eight that season and the next year, just some of his best coaching and moments that I'm going to remember for a really long time. Yeah, that level of passion that JJ's talking about was just really unmatched by most coaches. You know, obviously, like you were saying, Notre Dame men's basketball, it's never going to be the forefront of Notre Dame athletics, but Mike Brey did his best to make it a key part of campus life here. When Notre Dame men's basketball was at its peak, you saw that. And you saw it last year, too, when they were able to bounce back and have a big season, finishing at the top of the ACC and making it into March Madness. That interest level was there, and it was there when the team was good, but it was even better because of the special person that Mike Brey was and how his personality carried over to all quarters of campus.
Well, the quarterback room's looking really good, but they've got some weapons to work with this season. I think Irish fans are going to be really excited for. Jeremiah Love was one of the standouts from this game. Obviously, he has big shoes to fill, taking the mantle for Audric Estime, who, of course, is off to the NFL. But he looked very good, showed off a nice burst of acceleration. Looks like someone who's going to be capable of being a running back one at the top of a depth chart. And also the receivers for Notre Dame looked pretty good across the board. Jaden Greathouse made some plays. Deion Colsey got involved, which was good to see after essentially a non-showing this past season for Notre Dame. Remember, there's still some transfers going to be coming in during the offseason who aren't eligible yet to play for this Notre Dame team. So Notre Dame's receiver and running back depth chart looks really good right now. Yeah, two minor concerns for me. First, Mitch Jeter missing a field goal. You obviously don't want to overreact to one kick, but obviously everyone remembers the missed field goal Spencer Schroeder had in the Ohio State game. You never know which field goal is going to make or break your season. The other concern for me personally, it's kind of a good concern, but we were talking about it earlier, JJ, with the quarterback success. This does not bode well, I think, for Kenny Minchey's future in Notre Dame. And Jelly at least has the potential that maybe he could push Riley Leonard, especially with Leonard obviously being out for the spring game and throughout spring practice with his injury as well. And Jelly's more veteran. We've seen him succeed in game action. Minchey's kind of in an awkward spot right now. It certainly looks like if CJ Carr hasn't jumped him yet on the depth chart, he's going to very soon. And that leaves Minchey, who's going to be a junior in the fall. It's probably number 4 on the depth chart. There are a lot of junior number 4 quarterbacks who are going to stick around at their current school, especially one with the talent that Minchey seems to have. So that might be something that Notre Dame fans have to worry about, is the quarterback depth chart getting a little bit thinner.
Sounds good. Anything quick?
And that's not saying anything
What are your
Jalen
Marcus
Sneed.
Freeman?
I'll say the wide receiver depth chart. There's probably 6 or 7 guys for Notre Dame that could play like meaningful snaps, and a lot of them for Notre Dame this season. They're all going to get reps, they're all getting opportunities, but it's going to be figuring out how you want the early distribution of those to look like.
In Notre Dame winter sports. I think you're up next, McGuinness.
Yeah, I'm going to take a bit of a more immediate view and look at some of the top 3 athletes across Notre Dame winter sports so far this year. Number 3, men's basketball as a team, obviously not having the best season. I think that was kind of expected. What I don't think was expected was how good Marcus Burton was going to be. Basically, right from the get-go, he was Notre Dame's leading scorer in his very first game. Set a freshman record for most points in an Irish debut, and really has been very consistent throughout this season. He looks like someone to build around for Micah Shrewsbury and company. I know someone he was very excited to talk about with Trey Cody earlier in the show, certainly, and someone who's a big building block for this Irish team. No surprise at number 2, Ryan Bischel, obviously. He's been one of the backstops of Notre Dame sports the last couple of years. Fantastic last year. Really the only reason why Notre Dame got to such a good spot in the Big Ten tournament was Bischel's fantastic play down the stretch. He's been great again this year, top 5 in the country in save percentage, even better if you just look at his numbers since the start of November. Again, he's huge for Notre Dame's chances of going deep in the postseason this year. And I mean, number 1, how could you say anyone else? I mean, she sets a new record basically every single night, it seems like, and that's Hannah Hidalgo. 35 points last night, part of that big women's basketball victory against Georgia Tech with a 26-0 run. Hidalgo almost outscored the Yellow Jackets herself, in fact. I mean, she's just been one-upping herself all season. It's going to be fantastic to see where she is in the all-time Notre Dame records, not just at the end of this year, but at the end of her Irish career, because it looks like it's going to be a stellar one.
Yeah, I mean, I was the same as JJ. Like I talked about going to football games as a kid. My dad went here, graduated in 1981. Some of my cousins went here. And I remember when I got into Notre Dame, I didn't like jump up and scream. I kind of just like sat on my bed and just smiled and was like very happy and just like soak it all in. And I've tried to do that over the last 4 years, just soak it all in, the good, the bad. and the ugly that was 2020. But we got through all that stuff. Huge thanks to everyone here at NDTV. Shout out to Jacob Irons for introducing me to this. He actually got here before me to NDTV, even though I am a year older than he is. All the great people that I've worked with here over the last few years and shared other student media experiences with. It's been a blast.